I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting from Monday, August 14th. If everyone would rise and recite the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let the record show we have all members present except for Ryan Osmus. And next up, I'll just let Fred take it.
All right. We felt it was appropriate the timing of this board meeting with the events that occurred last week to give due recognition to Alan Cunningham and his life and 43 years to this district. And as a cabinet, we felt it was appropriate to allow a moment of silence. So I'd ask us all to take a moment of silence for that recognition at this time. And I thank you.
Thank you, Fred. If I could just take a minute, I just wanted to commend everybody in the district. It was really phenomenal to see how we as a district worked together in this past week and reached out to those who were hurting. And I just feel really honored to be a part of this district. Okay, moving on. I need an adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report, which is in our green folder.
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Tammy and a second by Jeff. All in favor? 6-0. And we have an error in the approval of bills. Jeff actually reviewed the bills this month.
We spent a lot of money, but nothing looked how they were.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion to approve the bills for the month.
Okay. I have a motion by Jeff and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 6-0. Okay, next up we have a special presentation. Jobs for America's Graduates Incorporated recently recognized Dodge City Second Opportunity School for Outstanding Achievement in partnership with JAG Kansas. The SOS program was recognized for exceeding the 5 of 5 performance outcome standards for the class of 2016, including graduation rate, employment rate, positive outcome rate, full-time jobs rate, and full-time placement rate. JAG is a state-based national nonprofit organization dedicated to preventing dropouts among young people who are most at risk. Today we have Sarah Kirk, who's a counselor at SOS, here to accept the award. Congratulations.
I would like to add, while we're getting ready for the picture, that Matt told me that Sarah deserves a lion's share of the credit for the work that she does. So.
Okay, well, next up we have the public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2017-18 budget. That sounds like something for Bill.
Narrow that down real quick.
Madam President, members of the board, at this time we open the public hearing as per the requirements of Kansas statute to give opportunity for public input on our budget. Just might mention that this budget does include the raise that the board previously passed for both classified, administrative, and certified personnel. As I tell you each year, this budget is basically based on some assumptions that we have. It assumes we're going to have a certain enrollment. It assumes that the county clerk, that the preliminary information on assessed valuation will be exactly the same. It never is. It will go up, it will go down, as you're all aware. And this year, the other assumption that has to be kind of pulled in is we have to understand that we are basically preparing this budget under a funding formula that has not yet been approved by the Supreme Court. So I fully expect it to change in some manner before the year is over. Don't know how that's going to be, but I feel very confident in the budget. We can operate our school system with the budget that is going to be published, but it is possible I'll be coming back at some later date and saying we need to republish because there have been changes. And I don't know how else I can say it. It's an assumption based on an assumption, which we kind of do every year. And so far, we've paid our bills and we've done what we need to do. So having said that, I guess we need to open it for public comment if there is any.
Okay. If somebody would like to speak regarding the budget for 2017-18, please approach the podium at this time. I don't see anybody jumping up.
At that point, then, we can close the public hearing and we will ask the board's approval of the budget later in the meeting.
All right, thank you,
Thank you
Bill.
so much.
All right, we will have Stuco reports resume on our September meeting on Monday, September 11th. Next up, we have the recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. So if you'd like to address the board, please do so at this time. Moving on then. Next up, we have the consent agenda. That includes the personnel, the supplemental personnel report, the approval for the minutes for the July 10th Board of Education meeting and July 17th special meeting, approval of building blocks project grant application for Bright Beginnings, approval of the Kansas Early Head Start Child Care Partnership grant application, approval of Early Head Start Grant Award for Bright Beginnings, the Kansas Early Head Start Child Care Partnership Grant, approval of Kansas Early Home Visitation Grant, approval of purchase of new washers and dryers for the high school, ratify the purchase of smart boards for Bright Beginnings, approval of Microsoft software renewal, and the arbiter pay for the high school referee pay system through CASHA, or with CASHA, and the approval of the additional credit cards for the high school activity meals. Does anybody have any questions on any of those? Or?
Just curious, Bill, on the washers and dryers, the low bid wasn't taken, and it wasn't that far apart, if I'm reading this right.
Normally it is. There's not. I'm sure Chris had a reason for doing that.
Right.
As well as the best bid, there must have been a reason for the best bid, and I can sure check that out and get back to you, the board. And
Okay, I was just curious if it was, because not that much different. I just noticed it was different. I mean, we didn't take the low bid.
All right. We'll make sure
I
that,
probably should have. I think Chris talked to me about that. I'll be honest, Jeff. I just.
Okay.
I think I read that the lower bid was not within the specs.
I think
That's-
that sounds right to me.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what it says right here. It says despite having the lowest bid, Loomis brought.
Yeah, they did not meet the specs. I'm sorry. I just missed that. That's
Okay.
my fault.
I should have been on top.
No. It's right here. That was on me.
I wanted to point out on the approval of personnel, we did find an error here as well. Cheyenne Shellhammer is being asked to be appointed for Dodge City High School Assistant Volleyball. We have her listed as football. I think she would appreciate the clarification.
I bet you're right there.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
A second.
Motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0. All right. Under new business, curriculum and instruction, we have TEC Lariat Way changes.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Superintendent Dirksen. We are, as you know, the property at Youthville, the Youthville program closed down. The owners, Ember Hope, put it up for sale in an auction. A private entity purchased that property. We were not able to secure a lease under acceptable terms for us, and we had to look at other alternatives. We explored a few other possible locations. Timelines were the main consideration that we were not able to pursue those other properties. In the short term, next year or two, to be able to make things, to allow us some time to make decisions, we decided to move back to the property where TEC was before. That is the Building A property next to and above Bright Beginnings. The program has expanded some, so we had to take some additional space. The additional space came from the Adult Learning Center that we have in combination with Southwest Plains, and we moved that location to the mall. And it is in the Village Shop Center. When you immediately walk into the mall on the east side main entrance, you'll see a little section where some shops are there, and it's called the Village. And we are on the east side, southernmost store is now our location. Maintenance did a wonderful job. I invite you to go look at that property. They have put in carpet, painted it, changed out, the mall changed out the lighting, and maintenance did a ceiling repairs on the ceiling tiles. And they moved all the furniture in. They built a secure closet, and it's very professional, looks excellent, presents a wonderful image for walk-through traffic that may come in and visit us through the mall. We have advertising currently, some small advertising on that labels the store, but we have permission to put up flyers in a rack, and we're working on getting some nice, very high visible signage that will go around the store entrance, and then also on a stand in the main hall when you come in. So that's where the adult center got displaced to. We also, unfortunately, had to move in on the Bright Beginnings people, and Deb White and her staff did a wonderful job of accommodating us, and she had to do a chain reaction shift that affected elementaries and the Bright Beginnings, and so I'm going to let Tammy explain that part of the move.
In order to move the TEC program back into the old TEC building, Early Head Start was housed in that building. So to get TEC back in there, we relocated the elementary gifted program that was in a standalone building across the street from the maintenance building. Used to be the Family Resource Center, became the enrichment building. Now I don't know what we'll call it, but it'll be back into Bright Beginnings world. So we moved the early childhood program over to the enrichment building. We moved gifted or enrichment at the elementary level down to Sunnyside. When we expanded Sunnyside, we built 3 of the kindergarten classrooms, and right now that building is primarily a 2-section school. Depending on student population and stuff, it's able to go back to a 3-section, but right now it's not needed for that. And so we put the gifted program in one of the new kindergarten classrooms, which gives them a large space to do a lot of their project-based learning that they do. It also has an office right there in the hallway, and so the gifted secretary, hopefully our psychologist soon, or be able to be officed right there. Mr. Momford was very excited and welcoming the gifted program down to Sunnyside, and the new teacher and secretary are pretty excited about it as well. So we then shifted Early Head Start over, which then allowed TEC and the Riata Way then to move upstairs in that program. We also reorganized the basement. Math's program had 2 of the classrooms downstairs, and Bright Beginnings had 2 of the rooms downstairs. Used it more as offices because they can't have children in the basement. But we could relocate most of those pieces, so we did a little reorganizing and adjusting in the basement so that we could open those up for the classrooms for some of the addition pieces to like the long-term suspension and things. So.
And on some of the financial considerations, of course, we paid for labor movement. We had to pay teachers for their day by contract to make the shifts and moves so that they can move their personal items and also their instructional materials that they needed to take to their new locations. We've also had to get some furniture to put into the new location based on the new uses. We have expanded the Riata Way program, of course, went into effect last spring. If you remember, we renamed the Lariat Way program to the synonym Riata Way, and that's to reflect the move from Lariat Road over to its new location. So it's now the Riata Way program. That K-8 program is split between Building A and Building B. The younger kids are working with the in the same TEC area, whereas the older middle school kids are in the Building B, and Matt Turner is helping to oversee those students with the director, Brian Hastings, from the TEC Riata Way program. In order, because it's on 2 different floors and it's spread into 2 different buildings, we also then have picked up a para to help provide adult supervision of the kids downstairs in that location. So that was one additional position that did not exist before that we needed just because of the physical layout has changed. We have had great cooperation. We are under contract to provide space with Compass Behavioral Health, and the new space, since we have grown a little bit, wasn't quite big enough to fit the Compass Health by the standard of the contract back in. But they have been very flexible with us, and they've agreed to do some office sharing, and so their coordinator is sharing with Mr. Hastings in his office, and we have some other like group space that is being shared with Mr. Turner in one of his rooms to do group activities. That will require some shelving that we're going to be putting in to store Compass Behavioral Health's group materials, because that was part of our agreement. And then we are doing a little bit different approach. There's going to be some student stations that are going to be built. Remember, this is virtually delivered to the older students from 3rd grade up. So we're giving them kind of a computer stations that they will be working at. And when we first received an outside bid, we felt that it was excessively high. It's very high-end furniture, mainly designed for adult business offices. So we talked and looked at doing some in-house construction, and with the time pressure that maintenance has been under to get the year started, we've agreed to phase in these workstations over each month. So they'll be building 3 to 5 each month and adding, and that will allow us to absorb the influx of the students that really start arriving. There'll be a small number in September, and then it just adds a few each month, and then we start seeing larger numbers in the springtime as more kids get fully identified for needing support. So that's the overview of all the different domino pieces that took place, and also what we had to incur financially to make the shift. But we're very proud of our staff at all the buildings and the way they responded, and maintenance has done an outstanding job in assisting the moves and also in preparing some of the sites so they're ready for instruction. So I think you'll be very proud if you walk and look through those buildings and look at all the different properties. And the only other thing also financially we did incur a small rent. The mall worked with us with a very flexible lease to help us and get in there, but it is an outstanding location, and we think it's going to help us build that program even up more, and that's for the adult diploma completion program. We feel that that traffic location and the other attractions there will encourage people to attend and be there. So we're looking forward to seeing more credits developed through that program.
So how long do you anticipate that this will work until we need to look at other ideas?
We are hoping that we can map this out for 2 years and make it work. It is a little tight, and of course we have cooperation from Compass Behavioral Health, but we may have to look at it in 2 years again and say our numbers are justifying that we need to do something different.
That's a lot of logistics you guys pulled off. That's a great job.
Yep.
Yeah, I guarantee you it was all the building principals, directors, and maintenance staff, and the teachers that did it. It was pretty easy from our end. All we had to do is kind of say, you're going here, you're going there. Everyone else did all the muscle work, so
Wow,
they are the ones that deserve the credit.
That's great.
you bet. It's awesome. Good job, everyone.
Okay, then the mentoring update?
We gave you some information on mentoring, but you had expressed that you wanted to hear a little bit more on the strength of the mentoring program. So Tammy and I just want to share with you some of the things that we've proceeded with since the last time we report on the mentoring program. We have, as we told you before, there was 3 mentor facilitators that we employ, and their instructional coaches assign that additional duty, and they coordinate and work with the mentors and the other instructional coaches that perform the second year of the training. That is they receive a stipend for that additional duty. All of the mentoring by all the coaches of the teachers in the second year is done as part of their duty, so there is no stipend paid in the second year. We pay $750 for each mentor and participant in the program. That totals $105,000 this year, as we are mentoring 70 new teachers. And those of you who are able to make the new teacher meeting saw how full that room was.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of high energy in that room. On top of that $105,000, we do have to qualify that there are payroll taxes and insurance that would add a little bit more to that on that percentage. And when we are working with the administration to try to make sure that we're delivering a quality service to our mentees, one of the things at the secondary level that we have done is to emphasize as an evaluation item for the administrators that this will be a priority. They are going to be doing a checklist that we're providing to them with a narrative opportunity at the bottom of it. And it's basically an assurance page that they're guaranteeing that they've made contact and verified the status of the mentoring program and checked in and made sure that the mentees are feeling supported. And if they have any concerns, questions, resources that they might need or something, that during those checks and communications, those type of things can be taken care of. So we're hoping that this will increase the amount of communication that occurs, give principals a really good grasp of what is happening. Before, when we had it just under the coaches, there was a little bit of a disconnect, and we're trying to close that up.
And just to reiterate a little bit about the formal mentoring training, today was the first mentor training, and so we contract with Southwest Plains to come in and provide that formal training. And part of the conversation is, be an example for the new teacher to watch. And one of the points that Jason Johnson, who did our training for us today, had shared with the mentors is example is a staff meeting. What are you doing? They're watching you. Are you paying attention to what's going on? Are you on your phone? Be that example for them. And kind of like what we talk about with our teachers and our students, that was kind of the presentation today with that. So there's the initial mentor training, and then there's another one that will follow up in the fall. And we do have makeup sessions to make sure that everybody who goes through the process is trained appropriately, and we do that each year. The mentors will work with their mentees. They do an initial checklist, and then they'll do the monthly checklists. And that's something that Glenn just referred to, that we're going to follow up with administrators to make sure that they're involved, and not in the checklists themselves. That's between mentor and mentee, but we just want to make sure that that support and those pieces are happening. And today, the mentees and mentors had an opportunity to meet each other. And some of them had met before, and some of them knew each other, but it was really neat to walk around and listen to the conversations. And there was a distinct difference between the elementary conversations and secondary, between just the organization of where you should put your desks and your chairs to a very in-depth conversation in high school science and those types of things. So it was really neat to see that connection from the beginning. They also planned their dates of the next 2 times that they will meet and talk. And so I think they had a really good start today.
The only other final note is that a lot of teachers, when they're new, don't want to be a bother to their mentors. They're sometimes more reserved than they need to be, and they don't ask the questions sometimes that they really should be. Dr. Dirksen did a nice job of talking with them and emphasizing the importance of reaching out and utilizing the mentor constantly if needed, but not to be shy about asking questions to get the support they need. And so he delivered that message very clearly to the teachers this morning. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we have Public Information Office. Yvonne?
Good evening, members of the board, Madam President, Dr. Dirksen. Every year we host a back-to-school function for all staff. This year's back-to-school welcome is Thursday, August 17th. Because of construction at the high school, we're actually going to hold that at the Civic Center this year. So we're going to, again, offer breakfast from 7 to 7:45. It's going to be a little bit lighter than it's been in the past, but we will start the welcome at 8 a.m. Lisa will offer a board welcome, and then we will have Jessica McGee, who is this year's DCNEA president, give the KNEA address. We're going to hear from both of the Kansas Teacher of the Year nominees, Gilbert Still and Mackenzie Luters, as well as the Kansas Master Teacher, Jennifer Hendricks. And then Dr. Dirksen will introduce our new administration, and then each principal will introduce his or her new staff. So we would like to reserve a place for you to sit if you're able to join us. So just let my office know as soon as you can. That's sneaking up on us very quickly. So again, the back to school welcome is this Thursday at the Civic Center at 8 a.m. Any questions? No? All right, thank you.
Sort of changed my plans. I was going to talk to the staff at the high school about wellness and the importance of wellness, but then we had to move to the Civic Center, and because we had to cancel the breakfast, we're now serving donuts. So there you go. You'll be happier.
Thanks, Yvonne. All right, Dr. Nance, Human Resources.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dirksen. I wanted to take this moment to give you a staffing update as we get ready to prepare for our students to return to school on Monday. I wanted to let you know that we have all of our teachers in place. I gave you a breakdown of 54 teachers that we sought to bring into the district, and we were able to do that. We did utilize 6 long-term subs. One of those is a retiree, so still a teacher. Let's see, that leaves 3 of those are working on becoming teachers, so they're in a licensure program with a university in our area. 2 of those long-term subs have been long-term subs in our district for quite some time and have built quite a reputation for being quality instructors in the classroom. So we're very, very happy to see those faces this morning. That was quite a thrill to walk in, and they really all showed up. So that was nice. We are still looking for 1 part-time school psychologist. We've been brainstorming, several of us, on how we might be creative in filling that need in the district. I've made some phone calls, and those people are just really, really hard to find right now. So we're looking at some ways to be creative with getting the services that we need. Also, we have some classified openings, 3. We have 2 assistant coach openings. And then there are always the postings for bus drivers, paraprofessionals, and cooks in the district. And so those postings are there as well. I ask that you let me know if you have any questions on our recruitment efforts for 2017-18.
I think it was a phenomenal job to get all those spots filled. So kudos on that.
Well, I'll have to say it's a team effort for sure. The principals did an amazing job of hustling and getting people signed up and making sure that their spots were filled, and did a great job of selecting people to be in our district next year. If there are no further questions, I would ask that you approve this report.
Doesn't show that's recording.
Just the staffing update, it shows as information only.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Okay, then let's move on to the next thing that I had on the agenda. This one is information and approval. It is additional staffing request. Some things that Glenn and Tammy mentioned to you about moving what used to be Lariat Way into the Bright Beginnings facility. Because of the nature of that building and the way they had to utilize rooms on different floors of that facility, they have a need for a paraprofessional to help monitor between the 2 floors. One principal can't be in all locations at the same time. Obviously, you don't want to have students in a classroom in a area that there's no adult supervision available. So that is the request for the paraprofessional there.
Okay.
I am estimating that based on our base paraprofessional pay, that it would be under $15,000, but then plus benefits for this person. So it could be up around that $22,000 mark. I have talked to our business manager, and he has assured me that the funds would be available to do this.
Okay.
Are there any questions on this particular request?
Okay.
So I make a motion for approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, I have two more requests, so bear with me on this. Our next request is for a paraprofessional at one of our elementary schools. One of our new teachers has a disability that requires a little bit extra help from the district. The principal has asked that we go ahead and put an additional paraprofessional in his building to be dedicated to that classroom. The teacher herself has not made the request. We just see it as something that would be helpful to her and a good way to supervise the students at all times when perhaps that teacher is tied up with things that might not allow her to do that. She's an experienced teacher. We have no doubt that she will be providing good instruction. It is just something that we would like to do if the board would be agreeable to that. Again, the amount is about the same as the last paraprofessional at about $22,000 a year. We do feel like with the American with Disabilities Act, we want to be a district that honors those types of things before it is mandated that we do so.
I'd like to move the approval of that motion
Okay.
request.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Barbara and a second by Jeff. All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, thank you for that. And my final request tonight is to hire an additional school nurse. With the enrollment increase that we're seeing in the district, we are also noticing that we're having a larger number of students with needs that require some nursing skill and expertise in the schoolroom. And what we're asking is that Ross, up till now, has been the only school that has had a dedicated full-time nurse in that facility. We're asking that we pull one of the ones that have some shared duties in some schools and put it, Tammy, I just went blank. Where are we putting this one?
We're wanting to, Sewell and Miller right now share one nurse. Beeson and Willroods also share one nurse. And with the increased student needs, medical needs at both Beeson and at Sewell, we would like Beeson and Sewell to have a full-time nurse and then hire an additional nurse, which would be a full-time position that would support Miller and Willroods. So it's adding one more nursing position, but we're adjusting kind of three different areas.
So we have 9 elementary schools. Right now we have 5 nurses that cover all of those facilities. And what we're asking is that we add an additional nurse and bring that total to 6 to cover the 9 elementaries.
I guess to me it makes sense Miller and Willroads are probably as close in proximity to each other as any other school to Willroads.
Yeah. And just the need-wise, Miller has had 3 days and Sewell has had 2. But they definitely needed more. And Willroads is getting about the equivalent of 1 day right now because the Beeson needs were so high. So that'll actually give Willroads a little bit more nursing support and also Miller a little bit more nursing support on that split.
Make a motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. All right, business services.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, at this time we come for our annual approval of the budget. The 2017-2018 published budget has been duly published in the newspaper. There has been a public hearing that has been held, and at this time, we would come and ask the Board of Education to approve the budget. I might mention, this is no mill increase compared to last year. We set up the budget exactly, so if all those estimates actually prove to be correct, we'd have exactly the same mill levy we had last year. Because that's been a board, priority since the bond issue. You gave a promise you would not increase the mill levy, so we brought it in that way.
Great.
Any questions?
All right, we would entertain a motion then.
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Brian and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. The next item today is basically there are 3 projects that, with the exception of security, have been completed with the bond issue. That is Railroads Garden Elementary, Lynn Elementary, and Beeson Elementary. So what is before you today? It's basically taking remaining balances that we're not spending in those projects and putting it back in owner's reserve. So that's good news. Those projects are completed. Again, other than the security issue, which we're going to talk about a little later in the meeting. So this evening, we are respectfully requesting the board to approve the change order for Railroads Garden Elementary, Lynn Elementary, and Beeson Elementary, reducing the guaranteed maximum price for each project and increasing the owner's reserve by $40,052.48. And any questions?
Everybody wants to jump on me.
We got a lot to jump on tonight, folks. Look at my list, so.
All right, we have a motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
One thing that did not make it into your board's packet this week, we were hoping it would be there with all the events of last week. It didn't quite make it. In this project, we put a contractor's reserve in the project. We are far enough along with the project that for some months, Hutton Construction's been saying they could reduce the amount of that reserve. And they're proposing, and that we do now have the paperwork, and your next board meeting, we're going to ask you to reduce the contractor's contingency by $385,000 and move that to the owner's reserve amount. We could have actually just moved projects in and taken it out of the contractor's reserve. We didn't think that was quite as transparent to the board or to our public as doing it this way. So next month, we're going to spend a little bit of this money tonight. It's there, not a problem. We still have plenty of reserve left in the contractor's reserve, and also Tom Montgomery has reserve. But I just want to make you aware of that before we start approving these other things, because this is part of the reserve that we're going to spend out this evening.
We should have taken a moment.
What?
I said we should have really taken a moment just a second ago before we moved
To
on.
appreciate that money
I
coming.
mean,
One of the things I might mention, just as background information, you on the board remember, but I don't know that all our patrons do, we were planning for like an October or November bond issue when we were putting this together. And suddenly the state legislature in their infinite, I'll just leave it at that, decided that they were going to reduce the amount of state aid available to districts, and we moved our bond issue up. It passed in June. If it had not passed in June, it literally would have cost the local taxpayers millions and millions more to have done the same thing that we're doing. And so I think it was a wise decision. But it does mean that there are some things that weren't quite in the original project that we would have liked to have had. And so far, we've been able to pick those up. And some of the things tonight were not necessarily, quote, the original project as it was presented, but we are picking those things up. And I think we're going to end up with great projects as a result of that. So I just kind of want to give you a little background on that and kind of where we are and why we're there. The next item is a change order for Sewell Elementary Northwest and Miller. And basically what we're doing, we're adding a series of things to these various kitchens. I'm trying to kind of think. The one thing I did want to call attention to, because I had a board member that asked, well, we were doing some things for Central, which we're going to get to in a little while. Are we doing anything similar for Miller? And there is a number of things. Basically, the paving that you see per architect's supplemental instructions, we are paving a good part of the park or the playground area at Miller that was designed with input from the building people. So we are going to have a good playground and a good play, area on hard surface on the Miller playground. And so that was not a part of the original project. We have found funds to do that. So we are trying to take care of each school as we come to it. And that's really one of the largest things. The other thing is parking. You'll notice that parking was not necessarily originally in part of all the projects, but we did go to the Capital Outlay Committee at that time, and the board designated and kind of reserved some money for parking. And so we're going to be doing some parking at Miller and also at Central as we go through these. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these. If you have any questions, I'm happy to get as detailed as you want to. But basically, we're asking for this approval this evening on this consideration sheet.
Nobody jumping.
So Bill, we're on the change orders for Sewell Northwest and Miller,
Yes,
and then Central is after the one after.
yes, yes.
So, okay, I would make the motion to change orders for Sewell Northwest and Miller.
I'll second.
By Jeff and a second by Brian. All in favor? 6-0.
The next one this evening is Central Elementary. And you'll notice this, we basically were able to eliminate a lot of the underground storage because of the design with the new parking and playground area. Some of those playgrounds are also going to double as a storm retention area. So while we ended up buying some properties, which we're paying for, and tearing them down, we are going to have on-ground storage for the water, and this is all part of that project when this is approved. We're pretty well done with Central. You're going to have a wonderful, wonderful elementary school there, and I just commend the board for all the work on that. So I think you're going to have a great neighborhood school. Any specific questions about that? It's a good plan. I think it's really going to work out well.
Okay, so I make a motion for the change of orders for Central.
A second.
Motion by Tammy and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0.
This one gets a little convoluted, but I'll do the best I can. Basically, what we did is there was a number of money, as you have approved the original guaranteed max price of each building, we put an allowance in for each security system in each building. Basically, as we tried to, we're trying to match all these, we're trying to track it, we determined it'd be much easier to put the entire security system under one package, remove it from each building, and just have one district-wide package. Part of the reason is there's some costs that affect the entire district, not a building-by-building basis, and trying to allocate those was going to get to be bluntly a nightmare. We think we can track it. We think we can be a little more transparent with doing that. So basically, this evening, we were asking for this district-wide project. This is the doors in the front of each building where we're going to put, where they have buzzed in each of these buildings and those kind of things, features that was agreed to with the bond issue. We basically, instead of just taking a straight bid, we basically did do interviews on this. We had 6 people make proposals. We interviewed 3 of them. And there was a committee that met based of Hutton, Tom Montgomery, and also some of our folks in the district. And they determined that the best proposal that they had was really from a district that starts with J&P, which is a local contractor, Haynes, which is an electrical firm that's done numerous projects for the district who've had very good results, and also a national firm, Pinnacle Fire. So we're basically moving $994,000 from the various projects to this new thing, district-wide security systems, and we're really asking for you to spend $955,000 of that. The other thing that came into this project was the servers of the project, and I'm saying the servers, in other words, each of these has a server at each building, and I'm almost going to turn to Ray to help me out on this a little bit. We did not include those in the bid. We thought it might be cheaper for us to do it ourselves, so we kind of left those out, but there came in a bid, and after consideration with our technical people and Ray, we basically are recommending that we take $96,030 to be paid by the FF&E thing from the district architect, and that will really complete the security package. That's probably as clear as mud. I apologize for that, but it's basically a turnkey operation at this point. And the thing we liked about that is the servers come with all the software on it. They're aware of the servers. This company buys, I'm told, second only to one other company, the number of Dell servers that are set up for their business. So it's not like they just do this occasionally. And it's not that we're going to have something where we're done, people are pointing fingers at each other. It's all going to be a turnkey operation. So we feel like we did a good job of making sure that they were within the reason and line. And again, it's been bid, so.
So we're not doing the servers. That's included in the package.
Yes, the package, in other words, it is a separate amount. It's basically the $96,030. We have money in the architect's budget to do this under FF&E. It's not part of the other things. So funding, we had the money there. It just comes from a different source.
It might be helpful if you explained what FF&E is.
Okay, FF&E is what they refer to for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And that's money that's been basically held in the architect's account. Some of it actually gets moved over to the contractor's budget. If it's something that needs to be installed, it needs that. If it's furniture, there's no reason to run it through the contractor and pay the extra overhead on it. We order it directly. It's shipped directly to us, and, it's put in. So that's what it is.
Is that totally replacing the systems at the middle school and the high school?
No. Basically, it will be new servers, it'll be a new system, but a lot of our existing cameras and stuff will just tie into this new system. And the one thing that we basically said is we want expandability. I have yet to be anywhere that they buy enough cameras the first time around. We guarantee you we're going to be back, because after we get this, they'll say, well, if we just had this camera here or this camera there, and we anticipate that, and we know we're going to be doing it. This system is expandable and scalable to that point. So we feel like we're buying large enough servers that we're going to have the storage capacity to meet future needs of the district. So,
I would like to add to this portion, and I visited with Bill today, and I believe that this is a very crucial portion of the bond issue. The ballot question itself was really centered on safety, and I believe safety is paramount to the construction project. I totally support what we're trying to accomplish with this bid, and I think those are very substantially profound companies. I have a lot of experience myself with Haynes Electric and think they'll do a great job. What I want the board to realize is, just like we were talking, as we add more cameras, we're going to need more servers. I mean, they go hand in hand, and I'm sure that we've calculated for some growth, but probably never enough. But I'm also worried about the several conversations I've had. I want to make sure that we've covered this safety issue to its fullest. Because sometimes what can happen when you're looking at a bond project and you're trying to stay under bid is sometimes you cut a corner here, you cut a corner there, and then unintentionally some safety factors may have been overlooked. And so what I'd like to do is, as we approve this, I would like for at least one board member to be willing to volunteer to serve on a, let's call it a safety analysis committee. And that before we fill out the paperwork on the final check for the bond project, that we've done all we can do for safety, and we can demonstrate to the voters that we kept that ballot question as the main idea throughout the whole project. Does that make sense? I think it's really important that we do that, and I would like your support on that. And I know there are some areas, I talked to Bill about a couple of areas that have been brought to my attention already that I want to make sure we address. And then I want to be fair to every building and make sure we've addressed the safety issues to the fullest extent we can. I mean, we're within a budget, we have to stay within a budget, but I just want to make sure the board has the satisfaction, and that way you can look at constituents and say, safety was the key factor in the decisions that we made.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I don't want to volunteer anybody, but.
Oh, I would.
I would really think Tracy would be willing to serve. I think she'd be.
Give them a
our best.
reflective vest out and do the best.
I saw that draft come, boy, that was pretty quick.
We'll stay in touch with Tracy, and I don't foresee that happening just within the next month, but I do foresee that happening this school year. As we're nearing completion of some projects, we'll start putting this all together, but we'll refer to Tracy when we put that committee together, so. Great, thank you, Tracy, for volunteering.
Thanks for volunteering. Okay, we do need a motion on this item, if there's no questions.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
The next item is basically, as I said, there were some items that have been added to this project since the beginning. GLV is pretty good. If they give you a cost, they really pretty well stick to it and don't nickel and dime you on things. But there have been additional engineering reports as a result of some of the things at Central Elementary and at some of the other projects. So this evening, there is a need to expand a little more for architectural fees to cover those costs. I think that's only fair. And really, many of these dollars are not going to the architect. They're going through the architect to the underlying engineers that are providing the services for the project. So I bring the item amendment of architectural and engineering services for bond package 1, bond package 2, and bond package 3 to you. And I would request that the board approve this at this time.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Second?
We have a motion by Brian and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0.
The next one, you're probably going to see me get as close to a happy dance as you've ever seen me in this boardroom. We have been, as you're aware, we approved the project at Sunnyside Elementary to expand the duration grant Head Start. Did I say that right? Okay, I'm just checking my experts over here. We have been waiting, and we've filled out forms. I think there was a 25 questionnaire that we dutifully, and I give my hats off to the people in Head Start. I think I just would have given up at some point, but they didn't, and we kept working in anyway. We got notification today about 2:30 that they actually approved the project, because we were told if we started the project without their approval, they might not fund any of it. And since it's over $500,000, that's, you know, if it was $10, I'd say the heck with it.
Right.
But for $500,000, you do what you're told to do, and, you know, that's the golden rule. Those who have the gold make the rules. The cost has gone up because the initial thing was that they were going to do the Head Start expansion at Sunnyside while they're also doing the Sunnyside construction project. Well, they're basically done with the Sunnyside construction project, so we did have to go back for pricing. It went up a little bit, but basically what we're recommending tonight is that the board approve this, and we will be starting just as soon as possible to get this underway and get this moving. And again, I thank the people from Head Start for hanging in there and filling out wonderful forms. And we've been dealing with the federal government. That's all I can tell you.
It's great news.
Make a motion to approve.
A second.
Motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
Let's see, got one more. Basically, the item on the next one is district-wide auction with Purple Wave. We've done this before. The district does acquire items from time to time that we can no longer use, that are not necessary for educational purposes. And what we're trying to do, the Purple Wave auction seems the best way for us to dispose of those items at a reasonable cost and not tying up a lot of district time. We've done some actual auctions in the past. By the time you look at the time it takes to get ready for regular auction and you look at the money you get, sometimes you wonder, really, why did you do it? So we're asking for this approval this evening. The Board of Education is respectfully requested to approve the Purchase Wave auction to hold an internet auction to order to liquidate the school's excess surplus property with proceeds from the auction to be deposited in the capital outlay fund. The board is further requested to authorize the board clerk to enter a contract with Purple Wave Auction subject to review by board council.
Bill, is that pretty successful in getting rid of the,
It's successful in getting rid of things. Candidly, a lot of what we have isn't going to bring that much money anyway.
right?
You're kind of in a bind on this stuff. You can't just throw it in the dumpster. You need to do diligence for getting rid of it. Most of the time, we don't get that much cash anyway, regardless of what we do. But this way, nobody can say, well, somebody else, we had a special friend that got something, they didn't have the opportunity. It's fair across the board, and it works pretty well. So,
How do we pay Purple Wave?
Purple Wave adds a percentage to what they do, so there's really no cost there.
Okay, very good.
Has the district used Purple Wave
Yes.
in the past?
Yes, we have, and we've had pretty good success, again, getting rid of the items. I'm not going to tell you this is a moneymaker, folks. I'm just not going to sit here and tell you that.
It is a legal way to dispose of
Yes.
public property, though.
You bet.
And the Purple Wave really has a contract with the state, which we kind of tie into. So,
Makes it easy.
I'd make a motion that we hold a district auction using Purple Wave.
Second?
We have a motion by Jeff and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0.
okay. Well, I think this is the last one. If it's not, I'm hopeful it is, because it seems like I've been up here a long time this evening. We had a board member who asked the question, what is the difference between the synthetic turf versus natural turf? Not only the first cost, but a lifetime cost. And so we went to our engineer, Schwab Eaton. That report is contained in the report tonight. I would just call your attention, if you've had a chance to read it, I thought the second comment he made The second factor is the level of use that will occur on the field. Synthetic turf will likely hold up better under heavy use. Although a well-maintained natural turf can perform well under steady use, there are times when turf may stress and require time to recover. A rotation of field is often the best solution to allow the recovery period to occur. Since multiple fields are proposed in this location, rotating might be a possibility, but may require tough management to control use during such periods. Based on our past experience in Dodge City community, this type of management may prove difficult to achieve. So that was the one thing that really kind of stuck out to me. I don't know if any of the board members, this is kind of listed as a information discussion item. I don't know if there's some comments from the board you'd like to make at this time.
Now, I've seen these figures and I was kind of blown away that the difference in cost over 20 years is $50,000. Well, $70,000, excuse me. Over 20 years, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, especially when you consider the value of water. And so I really don't ever want to put another natural turf field in.
Okay.
Just because of, but that's just me. So thank you for the information.
Is kind of the direction of the board then that we should at least initially price then artificial turf fields?
I would agree.
I definitely do.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus.
Okay, we'll do that. If I might have just one other minute after to talk a little bit about the whole issue of fields around Dodge City Middle School, Sewell Elementary, and Northwest Elementary. This has probably been one of the most complex projects I have ever been involved in. I never thought dirt could get this complex. But let me just kind of go through this. The first issue that we have to deal with is water control, i.e. the amount of runoff that we have. And at that location, there's a given amount of water that comes on that property from the north. There's also, we have added additional hard surfaces. We're putting, if you think about on that location, 2 additional gymnasiums that we're going to get runoff from. We're adding parking at Dodge City Middle School. We're adding parking at Northwest Elementary. We're adding parking at Sewell Elementary. We're adding a classroom addition at Dodge City Middle School. We're adding a classroom addition at Northwest Elementary, and we're adding a classroom addition at Sewell. So you have to take all those factors into account. So, you know, when the engineers start working on this, they start running their numbers. Engineers, they're amazing. It's been very interesting. And additionally, we're trying to balance the dirt. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but we had one, what I thought was a wonderful scenario we went through. When they finally figured out the amount of extra dirt we were going to end up with dirt we were going to have to haul away, it was over $400,000 just to haul the dirt away. So I'm really going to suggest, we don't have final numbers yet, but I'm going to suggest that if the board's willing, I think a work session might be in order so you can get the information you need to make a good decision. Tonight, I wouldn't be in a position even to recommend because I haven't seen numbers on the different proposals, but I think it'd be good to have Tom Montgomery and Ryan Rowley from Hutton to come out and really go through the board with these. And then you'll have all the information, and I'm sure you'll make the right decision at that point. I just don't want to mislead or not give full information to the board. So just as a thought, if the board's willing to do that, we could sure schedule that at your convenience.
Yeah, I don't think August will work, though. We've already got
Yeah.
meetings in
Next Monday,
August.
we already have a meeting.
Yeah.
I think that would be great because I'm not sure we'll have numbers until probably mid to late September. And we want to make sure we can bring not just options, but prices with options so that, you know, you can kind of see what the differences are. Again, I told my engineer, I don't know if you've ever heard the story, but Harry Truman once said he needed a one-armed economist because he kept having economists who said, but on the other hand, and he said, I just need to know what the reality is. I don't need I need a one-armed economist. I told my civil engineer and landscape person, I just need a one-armed engineer because it seems like every time we talk about this, well, yes, but this is going to affect runoff this way. This is going to affect, you know, it's been an interesting conversation. But hopefully we can get 2 or 3 proposals together, bring them to you, and then you can say, hey, is this what we want to do or not, and give you the information to make a good decision. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I apologize for taking so long to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Superintendent Dirksen?
Ask Bill a question, you will get an answer. We know that. And may have to call on him again. First of all, I just want to let you know how happy I am to be the superintendent for Dodge City Schools and how it's been an untypical start, and I'm trying to handle those situations the best I can. What I've put together tonight are a list of items that I want to address to you. I want to make it public information. I've looked at this in the 5+ short weeks that I've been in charge here, and I see these 3 items as top of the list right now coming from the superintendent office. I really only want to discuss them tonight. I want a very open and frank conversation, but I kind of want to go through it. And as I sit here and think about it, I may have to go in reverse order. So let's start with enrollment and talk about enrollment. I provided you an updated list that Ray has provided me today. And I thank Ray for that most recent information. I would ask you to observe that it does include the numbers from Sacred Heart, who eventually do become our students, and we have to factor that in when we're trying to project numbers out. I also, on the back, observed a slide today that Dr. Fortmeyer provided for the new teacher staff that I thought was worthy of you seeing possibly again, if you hadn't seen it already. But we are still projecting for this year that our enrollment figures will be in the 7,300 categories, near or about there. New to the district, a lot to learn. I understand September is a busy month of enrollment and that our figures are still coming in. And I have fun at the Learning Center when I go to talk to the 2 ladies that do the one-stop enrollment, and I always have a sad face when there's nobody there but me to say hi to them, because I always like to see the families there with more kids coming in, and they want it reversed sometimes because they've had a busy morning and that sort of thing. But anyway, on the tabulation sheet, if you break down the numbers, I've already talked with the junior high, and they look at these numbers, and I think I pointed out in our week in review, Ray helped me move some numbers because we had the preschool, the way they were queried, the preschool numbers, the 4-year-olds, which is the largest number of preschoolers, ended up making that 4th grade category look very scary.
I was
And
blown up. It was 7.
We had that,
It was awesome.
we did separate that. However, our 3rd graders do seem to be the large class. And we have to pay attention to that. But I think it's fair to say with the 2 middle school principals here, we're busting at the seams right now. And as we see these numbers grow, we start wondering what is the next solution. So those are some things that we have to think about in the future. And there are several possibilities, and some of those you've already discussed before my time. And as we look at what can be done, just talking out loud with options, I think you've talked about the Civic Center possibly being a 3rd junior high. I think you've looked at Sewell going back to its original intent of being like an intermediate school, a 6th grade center, and we now have that floor below Sewell that we're not using, that we haven't even planned on any construction at this time, but we made it available. And so we have some options there where we could take some pressure off of the junior high, go back to a 7th and 8th grade concept, and then have a 6th grade center, and which would change a lot of things too. And it would put more pressure on some of the grade schools. But having the foresight, you built the capacity for, we're going to 3 and 4 section schools with our construction. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I wanted you to see that indications are our enrollment is still in the trajectory that we show on the chart on the other side too. So I think both of these pages play into the factors of where enrollment is at this time. And I look at the cabinet, anything to add on enrollment figures at this point?
Broad beginnings, mentioned the broad beginnings is just active student, just probably double that on the broad.
That it's increasing, that it's larger than the figure that we are being given at this point. Is that what you're saying, Ray?
Yeah, this is just active student.
Yes, and I think,
They put their students in a different system before they put them in where we can exactly.
so what I hear you saying is
Today is 319 actually.
look for growth.
Look for 500 or something. I don't know.
We just lost a teacher in the back row.
What?
No, I appreciate that. And that that goes along with what we're saying. We're predicting those numbers. The way that the system is working, we don't have all of the Bright Beginning students registered yet, and we know that number is going to be larger than it is, I think is the best way to say that.
What's a ballpark? Where do you think it's going to go? Okay.
And if all slots are filled like they, up to the full enrollment, it should be 402 that are 3 to 5. That's not including special ed or the early programs.
And so that makes the Sacred Heart number a wash and then some, a couple hundred more than sums. So these are just numbers. I'll keep feeding them to you. It just adds to this conversation as we look at what some of the factors are. You know, we have not set up yet for the growth that we can have with the expansion that we provided at Miller and Central and all the other places, Sunnyside, and I mean, you name it, we've added on to it. So we have room for that, but we have to pay attention to these numbers and see where it's taking us. Probably specifically, my biggest concern is the junior highs, the middle schools, what we're going to do there in the very near future as you play that out. So that is on my radar.
What will be Dodge City Middle School's capacity once the building's done? What will be your capacity?
Part of the issue is that the expansion is not just pure new space.
Right, I understand that.
Replacing space that, you know, we had in portables and other classrooms that were being shared, that kind of thing. So it's not complete new student capacity. I don't know what the actual numbers were, but we're trying to get.
Well, we were at capacity about 800.
Yeah.
But those were just 2 grades, 7th and 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that you have to remember is that we are 9 classrooms short coming into this thing, because when you start taking out the portables and you start adding that 6th grade center and where we have kids located now, if you remember, we were on the stage
Right.
and we were in little cubby holes all over the building and in closets when we hit 800. So we really didn't have the classroom space, we just made it work.
Yes, sir.
So you need to kind of think about that too. So when we go into this next building project, we have 11 to 12 classrooms that we're going to be adding. So now, but we were 9 short. So you can see we'll be at capacity pretty quick. And I can't speak for Mark on that, but I'm sure that he's pretty close as well.
We added a special ed class at Mark's building last year. We had to bump a health class, and we're already starting to take teachers at Comanche and put them on rotation to be able to try to fill so that kids can have access to rooms. And we are that tight.
Okay.
Okay.
Mark,
I will mention to the board too, that we have those maker spaces that we've added in, so there is some possibility for expansion. But, you know, when you say you're gonna create something and then you use it for something else, then it becomes one of those things that you just backfill again, and just make it work. So just knowing that those 2 spaces are there, but they're not classroom spaces. Okay.
Yep.
Both of them will probably cap out around 800 is what we've been looking at, talking to architects and things.
Okay. That's, your concern's well founded.
Yes, and Mark, do you have anything to add to that on your side?
Every room in our building is being used right now. And we're comfortable right now, but with any growth, we will be full very quickly.
It's getting tighter.
It's getting tight.
So, yeah, so that's been brought to my attention, and I want the board to be aware of that. And so then we've got to start projecting and making some decisions based on some of those facts as we move forward with the projects and they come together. So, all right, well played. We're through one item and we'll go back. So then the next item that I really want to talk about is intertwined with the Kansas Heritage Center and the administration building change, or what we're going to do with the administration building in the future. First of all, the Kansas Heritage Center, I did provide the memorandum of agreement as one of the attachments that I want you to take a look at. This work was accomplished before my time. Lisa and I did attend one meeting with the Dodge City Public Library, and we shared information with them, actually scheduled another meeting. I believe it's August 22nd.
Yes.
I believe we have another meeting with them to kind of look at what they had targeted or in the space they have available. I think they have a very strong desire. I think they have a very natural fit. But I also think, and I shared with them, that so do we have a very natural fit. Our students have benefited greatly from the Kansas Heritage Center. And as we look in the future, there are many ways that we can benefit even more, I believe. And I have taken this so far. I stopped in at the Kansas Historical Society in Topeka when Bill and I went up to listen to the court case. And I've had conversations, and last week Bill and I even visited with a lady from Montezuma that runs the facility over there. What is that place called?
Stout.
Yes. And she came and visited with us. What I have a passion for is providing cultural opportunities for the benefit of our student body that may not have that opportunity without us. And we owe that to our students in Dodge City, and we have it right at our grasp. And I think we could do many, many more things with the Heritage Center as well. And I think we could make it nationally known. 7 schools were selected for innovative ideas in Topeka last week. And I've sat through a lot of meetings over my career, and I've heard schools talk about innovative, but when you look at the pieces that are provided by the Kansas Heritage Center, I don't believe you could get much more innovative than using the resources of our community and our state and putting it all together with our curriculum for our students. I mean, it almost gives me goosebumps, and I'm an old coach. It used to take me a lot to get fired up, but I can see that. And there is a lot of history here, and there is a lot that we could make of that, and we could fit it into a new administration building if we had the foresight or the planning to do so as we move ahead. So that's something I want you to think about, and that's why I think these all three fit together. I think we need to look at how we could use a facility and make the Kansas Heritage Center more valuable. Because let's face it, right now, as we start talking about the administration center, the Kansas Heritage Center's location is not ideal. Its marketing is poor at best. Its accessibility is miserable. I mean, there are many, many ways we could improve this just for the public, let alone for students. I mean, and that's just the facts, people. And that's just talking about the administration building, really, and the condition that it is in right now. So as I look at the administration building added to this piece, I just want to know how soon and how quick the board is willing to direct us on coming up with plans. I fully understand we cannot use bond money for this project. I totally get that. But I've been working with the business officer, and he's assured me, as he has throughout all these projects, there are many things that we can do. And I've looked at several ideas, and I think I can break it down in 2 simple forms. We can do a short fix that'll probably last 10 or 15 years, or we can do a long fix that could go way beyond this superintendent and the next 2 that you hire, understanding that those are long-term tenures I'm talking about.
And we is a collective term.
That being said, I really am enticed myself at the Civic Center idea for administrative offices, for the Learning Center, and for all of the areas that we need to center into the district. It's a central location. It's in the middle of the district in a way that would be advantageous. The interesting thing about the Civic Center, I took a tour there. Some of the utilities that are already there could be shared with any expansion that was added on to the Civic Center. We could utilize some of the combination of the utilities that already exist. The Heritage Center, if we were going to build on there, could be added on to that in a way that would allow them to market some of the things. They make their money by selling many of their products. We could have, and that, what a great location that would be for the Heritage Center, right on one of our major marketing streets. So that's kind of where I've leaned, because as we look at the other idea that I know has been talked about many times, you look at the furniture store beside the Learning Center that we currently lease, so we're paying that money annually. There just isn't enough space to add everything that we need up there, and the Heritage Center, and we would continue to not own that property, and it wouldn't be in a central location as well as we could make that be. Help me out here. What am I missing?
You're looking at administrative center, you're looking at your, the other thing we've talked about is that, if I may, Dr. Dirksen, one of the things that we wanted with the court case was more money. They have increased, for example, the percentage that we're going to get for at-risk students. That's tremendous. We need to be able to show what we're doing with that. Okay, what can we do to make our team better at-risk? Well, obviously, teacher training, teacher in-service, and those kind of things. If we have the kind of facility that we can have larger meetings, breakout meetings, and those kind of things, I think we can make a difference for not only the next year or 2 years, but the next decade or 2 decades. It's definitely a lot cheaper sometimes if you're going to have 100, 200, 300 teachers participate to bring things to Dodge State, which we've started to do. You know, when we part the Civic Center, we start bringing things to Southwest Kansas. Our folks used to have to go to Wichita to go. We think there's some opportunities there. Again, is that the right answer? I think it needs to be explored at least, so we make a rational decision and we really look at what possibilities could be there. Just possibilities. The other thing we've talked about is with the demographics of our community, what are the possibilities? You know, I can almost look at my entire board, and I know your kids got to go to places like Discovery Center, whatever. We have a lot of kids in Dodge City that just don't get that opportunity. If we can bring it to them, there's some tremendous things we can do. And we can enhance and really reinforce, I think, a lot of the standards. One of the things that Kim Lakewater indicated, many, for example, the Smithsonian exhibits that come out today, they didn't have lesson plans that can teach towards standards for exhibits that come in. You know, there's things we could do. So it's possibilities, just how far do we want to reach and how innovative do we want to be.
When budget cuts came across the state, a lot of schools cut out field trips and that sort of thing. And so as a matter of survival, museums and other places started listing all the standards that are being taught or that can be accomplished to show how it can connect to your curriculum and that it is worth attending, et cetera. And so that's how that came about. And Kim was going to put some of that together for us. So really, I just want you to know these are concerns that I have. And I guess it's fair to say they were all with the job. But I'm very concerned. I mean, I have no problem with my office. I'm just concerned about the deterioration that is going on. I really am not thrilled about the fact that there's road construction signs blocking the path of people that are trying to come to the administration building. There's construction tape that literally tells you which side of the sidewalk is apparently safe to use. I don't know what people think as they're walking up there. And you know the problems better than I. And it's just something that we've got to address sooner than later. And this all ties in. And so I want to be a good partner. I want to be a good listener when we go to the meeting at the library, but I want to share with him that I still have ambition. I still have interest in what the school district's role could possibly be. Because certainly, I believe with the artifacts that we have, I think there's a role for the public library as well. The one thing I got out of the Kansas State Historical Society that I think is important to all of us is they've had to change the way that they deliver to the public as well. And they have this beautiful multi-million-dollar building, but they've had to change how they address their media to the public. And she talked to us about the multitude of partnerships that you have together now. And that's why it was kind of neat that we had that lady come in from Stroh's to look at partnerships that could exist. Well, we have partnerships right here in town. We have the public library. We have Boot Hill. We have the Kansas Historical Society, who loves the Kansas Heritage Center, by the way. I mean, and it goes beyond that. You know, the Cosmosphere, I'm sure, would be a hand as well. And I'm certain we're the only public school district in the state with a jewel like this. And that's something for us to consider as well. So,
I think, I'm really committed to a new administration building. I think that's without question. You know, this building has served well for 100 years, you know, but its time is done. I've got some questions about the I'm kind of, you've talked about building administration center and putting the historical society, you know, as part of that. Here's my concern. It's just money, just finances, to be perfectly honest. Because we talk about growth, we talk about, there's gonna be a huge need for teachers. And I know with students, we get extra dollars, okay? If we expand the Kansas Heritage Center, if you correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna foot the bill for it. We're gonna foot the bill for it. Okay.
Now, the question is, how much more would it really cost than what we budgeted for the last 4 or 5 years? That's another thing we need to.
Well, if you put a 6,000 square feet, you know, and plus, you know, you've got to staff it, you've got, you know, if it grows, it grows. Everything grows exponentially. I mean, expenses grow. I'm just concerned about, we get out 5-10 years from now, we've got 8,000 students, you know, and we've got 100, new teachers we're hiring every year. You know, if we don't put ourselves in a position where we are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the Kansas Heritage Center, when the library, could handle that expense. I mean, it's just a matter of where are we going with it?
Yeah, you make a valid point. However, the administration building is going to require spending money and increasing space no matter what we do, with or without the Heritage Center. And how that would fit in is kind of the point that I was trying to make, and I don't think that would be the majority of the money that would have to be spent on the Heritage Center in no way, shape, or form. I just think that you would want to include that if you were thinking about keeping it into that expansion that would have to take place. Because if we brought everything from the Learning Center to the Civic Center, we're still going to have to add on to that facility. My guess is to the north, because you're very close to the street to the south.
Well,
in my mind's eye.
absolutely, there's going to be extra expense, but we're already spending money on an administration building. We're already spending money on the Learning Center. I mean, there's going to be extra expense, I agree. I'm just concerned.
It's going to be a consolidation of expenses though,
Right,
too. Will be
absolutely.
part of the reward, if you will, for that.
Yeah, I don't know if are we going to have the resources to make the Kansas Heritage Center anything other than what it is now? And I don't know, I'm just.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I just see the potential
Right.
there. And we have supported the Kansas Heritage Center for all these years. I mean, that can not go without being noticed as well.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
And so it has been a part of us all this time. So I think you make a valid point. And all I'm doing is laying these ideas out to you on my first observations in my second month of employment.
It'll take a lot of discussion and a lot of
Absolutely.
understanding. And I know the Kansas Heritage Center is a special place. I'm just probably need to be sold a little more on its value.
I get that.
And so when we're talking about, our middle schools being full.
Absolutely.
After spending 30-something million.
Yes.
I think the board as a whole agrees and understands that we needed a new admin building yesterday. I mean,
Yeah,
I think we're
I
all.
think that's true.
Is there any, I don't know, is there any financial resources, as in grants or other things with the historical that would maybe be out there?
I am sure there are, and that has to be explored, because that would be a golden opportunity, especially when you intermix the cultural additions to that would be able to be provided. There are groups and organizations and people that would really grab at that. I don't have any doubt on that idea, but that's been totally unexplored as well. But I will start investigating some of that to try to at least entice some conversation.
Absolutely.
So, really want it out to the board. Anything else you want to talk about on any of those three topics as far as, I just thought they were valid points. I thought it needed to be brought out. I've been here long enough to at least let you know where some of my concern buttons are. And certainly, these are the three items that I see right now. Thanks to going back to the fact that we took care of a really big one at the start in July when Lariat Way was unable to acquire that property and all that. And I reiterate what Glenn said, but I can't thank the people that helped us out enough, and their attitudes were fantastic. I know there for about 3 days, I looked like a meter on a soundboard at a drum contest or something as far as we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And we finally locked in and it went well. So much appreciation.
I think the capacity at the middle schools took me by surprise a little bit. I didn't realize you guys were so tight on space. So that's a little surprising to me. Good information. Anybody have anything else?
I think that concludes my report. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right, we have Board of Education member district responsibilities, Park and Rec Advisory Board. Barbara?
Parks and Recreation met on August the 8th at Mariah Hills, and Paul Lewis, the director, reported attendance at the water park is down this year. No surprise. He attributes most of that to the incredible amount of rain we've had recently and the temperatures that are kind of unusual, I think, for this time of the year and this season. One other thing I had to point out from that meeting was that he announced what you may already know, and that he is leaving his position as director and at the end of this year and retiring.
Is that all? That's it. Okay, thank you. All right, Bright Beginnings and Head Start, Tracy?
Just the exciting news about the grant being approved, and we discussed that earlier tonight. They are doing the enrollment. They had, as of this afternoon, 192 of the 215 Head Start positions filled already, 104 of the 149 pre-K that were filled. The KPP community spots where there's not a threshold on family income, those are already full. And 9 of the 10 state pre-K kindergarten classroom was full. So they're looking to enroll 69 more students, which those will come in quite early. They, obviously, by all the grants we approved today, there was a lot more that is going on there. And we should start our meetings September.
Very good. Thank you. All right, Tammy, or Jeff, I guess. Special education.
It was the budget meeting, the budget was approved, and I was trying to remember, I cannot remember about staffing, but I know they were looking for some staff. But that's a continual problem.
Yeah. Legislative, we don't really have any new information as far as that goes, do we, Bill?
The last that I heard from our attorneys from School Repair Funding, they keep thinking it'll be soon, but that seems soon, just as soon as we thought it was going to be. I don't know, we may have a special session again, we may not, I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
Haven't heard anything else.
Okay.
Might just mention, we had Diane Gerstead and also Lynn Rogers here for the funeral of Mr. Cunningham. And they're both from Wichita, and I thought it was very nice of them to come out and share that event with us. They've been good supporters. The amazing thing is our local senator found out that he had an awful lot in common with Lynn Rogers because our schools in many ways, Wichita's large, but they have many of the same issues that we have in terms of migrant ESL students, poverty. There's a lot of similarities and things we can work together on. So anyway, again, I just appreciate that.
Yep, that was nice. All right, we don't have any capital outlay at this point. Calendar hasn't met yet. As Dr. Dirksen mentioned, we have a meeting with the Kansas Heritage Center Work Group a week from tomorrow. And we have for September, Tracy will be reviewing the district bills before our September board meeting. Announcements, we have today, or let's see, is today the 14th? Yeah, today we had the new teacher orientation and introductions. And as has been mentioned a couple times, that was quite the sight to see that big room in the Learning Center packed. Thursday of this week, August 17th, the all-staff breakfast, 7 to 7:45 at the Civic Center, and the welcome back beginning at 8 o'clock. Reminder that it is the Civic Center. Board members, if you could please be present to be introduced there at 8 o'clock. Monday, August 21st, first day of classes. Also, special Board of Education meeting with Doug Meckel from KASB here in the Austin boardroom at 6 o'clock. And then our regular second board meeting, Monday, August 28th at Beeson Elementary at noon. Do we have anything that we want to have added for future board meetings or discussion? Nothing? Okay. We need an executive session for the discussion of personnel matters of non-elected personnel to protect the privacy interests of the individuals. We need Dr. Dirksen, Ramona, and Ken Strobel, board attorney, and about 15 minutes?
That'd be good.
15 minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Tammy,
Second.
second by Tracy. All in favor? Okay. Thank you, everyone.